the fear of never going back and experiencing that wave again became greater than the fear of what might happen if something went wrong again. You know what I mean? So it was full blown FOMO, really. Yeah.
Hi, friends. Happy summer. That was Keala Kennelly, arguably the best big wave surfer on the planet. And I didn't say female big wave surfer because Keala is one of the only females to win the Pure Scott Barrel Award of the Year for her barrel in Chopu, Tahiti. This award made her the first female ever to win an open gender category, meaning guys, girls, she got the wave of the year. And from the conversation that we had, it sounded like ultimate perfection. I'm big mountain skier Lynsey Dyer, and this is the Showing Up podcast. These are athlete-to-athlete conversations created to inspire the unicorn in you, to embrace your weird, do the thing, even if you suck at it, and fully show up for this one wild and precious life. You might recognize Keala from her cameo in the mainstream film Blue Crush as the badass surfer that encourages Kate Bodsworth to go for it and then quietly kicks her ass. How awesome was that film? Come on. But Keala deserves the mainstream fanfare with an ESPY nomination and the only female to be invited to the super prestigious Eddie Howe big wave event in Hawaii that only shows up when the waves are big enough. As you'll see, I am so excited to converse athlete to athlete with a big wave surfer and compare notes, as I've always wondered, is giant wave riding comparable to big mountain skiing when you really face a dragon and dance with it? You'll hear all about it in the interview. I was lucky enough to meet Keala at an event put on by my dear friend kiteboarder, Susie Mai, who also introduced us to Sachi Cunningham, a California-based film producer who, after showing up in the water at Mavericks with only a handful of other females, decided to make an all-female big wave surf film. The film is half-produced, it's insane, and they're still fundraising for it, and it's called She Change, and that interview will follow the Keala one. 2 other quick pieces of info before we start. There is a moment of swearing. I apologize, parents, but it's also very appropriately placed, and you might get a kick out of it. But beware in case there are kids listening. And I also reference an injury of Keala's that we don't necessarily explain well in the interview. Just to give it context, you should check this out on YouTube. There is a great piece about it. But Keala took a fall in Tahiti that exposed her head to the reef and left her with a massive gash that I had a similar experience as a skier practicing my Lincoln loops in Japan once, which left me with a big gaping flap of skin similar to the same scar that Keala has. So that's the reference that you'll hear us speak of. As you'll hear, there's also a bit of a weird tapping going on with the microphones in this interview. Not sure how that happened, but we were not able to take them out. It's a bit annoying, but it doesn't distract from an awesome interview. One of my all-time favorites. You will definitely get something good out of this one. Keala's a legend, and enjoy.
Let's go. So we're at this really dope beachfront house in Kailua right now with an amazing view of the ocean and little islands and beautiful Oahu. It's pretty rad.
Yeah, it's pretty rad. And we're about to watch what I'm so excited, a little teaser of a film that you guys are fundraising for. Is that safe to say? Or?
Yeah. So it's gonna be an epic movie. Sachi Cunningham's been working on this for years and years and years, and she's just poured her heart into it. And I'm excited for the film to come out. She's got a lot of footage, but obviously it costs money to produce such a film. So she's doing a little fundraiser for it, and I think.
And you've been one of those people she's been filming for the last 4 years.
Yeah. I met Sachi. I met Sachi at Mavericks, the first time they ever had a an event for women at Mavericks. It was like this company called WickerX did like this multimedia event for women and held a big wave event at Mavericks.
Was that 4 years ago or before that? It was before that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like I want to say like 2011, like 12 maybe 13.
Rad.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really rad. We got this like all of a sudden we got this like package in the mail with like an iPad and instructions, and it was very like 007. Like you opened it up and it was like, this is your iPad.
Check yes or no.
Yeah, no, it was very like, this is your mission if you choose to accept it kind.
No way.
Yeah, and it was like, here's a GoPro, here's an iPad. You need to film all your big wave exploits and like load them up and make videos and basically, we're gonna have a big wave event at the end of all this for the women at Mavericks, and it'll be the first one. And so it was a really, really cool event. Actually, I was the overall winner of that multimedia event, but they gave prizes away for multiple things, like biggest wave ridden during the thing, or best video made, or it was really cool.
So what is it? Forgive me for not knowing, but the difference between like anyone, you could ride at Mavericks anytime, right? Like what?
Yeah, no, there's nothing that keeps you from.
So when you get these invites, it's more of the contest that is part of the invite.
Yeah, it's more like the thing I've kind of been pushing forward and kind of trying to pioneer for the women is there just hasn't been events for women because I love big wave surfing. I'm super passionate about it, but
there's a contest scene.
There's been no events until like 2 years ago was like the first time they actually
were there film. So in skiing, there's the film side and then there's the contest side.
Well, we've had like the XXL Big Wave Awards. That's been going on for over a decade.
Right. So have women been getting those parts?
So there's always in the Big Wave Awards, they've included women pretty much from the first few they had. Like it was only men, and then they included women in that. But really, I mean, the only category that women could actually seem to win. I mean, we were able to win all categories, but the men would just dominate most categories. We'd win the women's performance.
Okay.
I was the first woman that actually won what's considered like an open gender category because I won best barrel of the year.
Period, not men's.
Not men or women's, just
best barrel.
Best barrel, and it's normally only ever been.
I remember reading that.
Yeah,
and I was
so
like,
that was really cool.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
that's fucking amazing.
That was pretty amazing. I'm not gonna lie.
Wow.
So that's been a something that's been on. It's like an ongoing competition, right? But it only happens once a year, and it's basically your performances over the course of the entire year. And so in order to have those performances, you need to chase swells. And in order to chase swells, you need money and sponsors and plane tickets. Yeah, you need the support. But it's kind of like a catch-22 because the sponsors aren't putting money into it because there's no competitions for women, so they don't see a value. You kind of almost have to have, it's like a necessary evil. It's like I don't necessarily love competitions. I competed on the World Championship Tour for a lot of years. Like I got the competition bug out of my system.
Yeah.
But it's like you kind of need competitions. Like people need competitions to be able to compare other people to other people and say this person's better than that person, that therefore this one wins and this one, so it's just like that's what gets sponsors and brands and people pumping money into a sport,
So, I mean, it's not a unique question, but like how? What's your story of getting in, wanting to go ride the biggest waves in the world?
I grew up on Kauai, and I grew up with like a lot of really, amongst a lot of really gnarly big male surfing role models. Like Laird Hamilton was my godfather, Titus Kinimaka, Kala Alexander. And I grew up like basically brother and sister with Andy and Bruce Irons. So,
I remember that.
I was just a little tomboy that was trying to like keep up with those guys and impress those guys. And so they seemed to be charging bigger and bigger waves. And so that was like just the thing that got you. Well, that was the thing that got you respect, and I wanted their respect so bad. Yeah. So it was just like, and then obviously I was I had a passion for it, or I was drawn to it, because no matter how bad you want somebody's respect, if that kind of thing scares you too much, you're not going to do it. So yeah, innately, there was something in me that was driving me towards that. But yeah, also.
So, but you've also had your fair share of injuries, and I know with the big one I mean,
Chopu.
yeah. I mean, I've got almost the exact same story that you had. I have it as where I saw everybody else looking at me, and their faces went white. And
it's always a bad
it's
indicator.
like I wasn't scared actually. I mean, I was a little dazed. I wasn't scared until I saw somebody else look at me. And it's like
samesies.
And like, so you said you had a little PTSD. I don't think I ever totally came back from that.
Yeah.
How did you deal with that?
You know, it took a while because that was a gnarly injury, and it actually happened.
Did you go see people? Did you get like, I've been looking for weird
gurus and so yeah.
No, but like, therapies, and there's been some cool ones. But I don't want to take too much time for that. Like tapping stuff and.
For me, I think it just because that definitely rattled me, and anytime I surfed reef breaks. After that, of course, I was thinking about it. It was in the back of my head, and I didn't go back to Tahiti for it took me 2 years to go back there. But I think for me, it was like the fear of never going back and experiencing that wave again became greater than the fear of what might happen.
Love it.
If something went wrong again.
Love it.
You know what I mean? So it was full-blown FOMO, really.
Totally.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that? Can you talk about your most favorite memory of I don't know, have you felt perfection on a wave? I've felt perfection once. How many times have you felt it?
A couple times. Yeah. In Tahiti mostly.
Will you just share that story?
Or
just that moment?
In Tahiti, it's such a magical place already. It's such a beautiful, spiritual, uplifting place already. It's got so much mana. And then, when you're towing in, it's they take you way out beyond the break, and it's generally, there's nobody, usually it's big enough that nobody's paddle surfing. So the break's relatively empty except for all the skis and people. Now it gets pretty crowded, but you're way out in the ocean, and you look back and you see all these mountains and waterfalls, and it's just so beautiful. And so I don't know, your heart just feels so expanded in that moment. So it's just such a you're coming from such a pure place before you're just in such a gratitude place. And then it's and so you're just in a really good place within yourself. And then it's you take the rope and you're nervous and everything, but you feel so good. And that you get whipped in and you just see this huge wave just kind of forming, looking down the line and just seeing this thing growing, and it's just so much energy. And then you let go of the rope and you just get your line and make sure everything's perfect, and then you're just inside this huge cylinder of water, and it's just so beautiful. And you feel you're so focused because you have to be, because there's no other choice. So it's complete focus or death. It's ultimate presence. And in life, we're all striving to get to that place of ultimate presence, and nothing has gotten me there like that wave and that moment, that experience, because you literally feel fully connected to everything in the universe for a split second.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's perfection on a wave.
I'm with you. I love it. Yeah. So I guess what's at stake? I know what's at stake for me. People are like, how do you do that? I guess in those places you're talking about, there the option of falling and all the danger, it isn't there because I mean, for me, and I'm curious if it is for you too, because you're in such a state of appreciation, and you're prepared. I know for me, when I was in this spot that you are, there wasn't a fear.
Mm-hmm. No, the fear actually comes before.
Yeah, the anticipation.
It's the anticipation. Actually, I find myself way more afraid when I'm actually tracking the swell and booking the flight.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's your most afraid.
That's one of my most afraid moments, because it's if I'm going to spend the money and go, then I know I'm going to go push myff over that ledge, because I'm not going to spend the money and not go do something. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to spend the money to sit in the channel and watch. So at that point, I'm already making the decision to take the wave. Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
Like, yeah.
Totally.
So the decision's made like.
Do you have a way of my friends and I were just in Alaska and we were kind of like, how do you psych yourself out? Just like you said, we're waiting on the top of these big lines and or it's a big air or whatever. And it's like, what do you say to yourself or you know, how do you get yourself stoked?
Well, the times in Tahiti when I've gotten the chance to tow in, it's like I'm relying on other people's generosity because I'm borrowing like their ski, their driver. I don't have my own ski. I don't have my own tow team, you know. So I've literally
so
like
you just really are in appreciation.
Yeah, I've literally sat out there for like sometimes 4, sometimes 6 hours, fully geared up, hoping somebody's gonna take a break and give me a shot.
Wow.
Kind of thing. And so I've literally had to psych myself up so many times. I'm almost like emotionally exhausted by the end of it because it's like I've sat there and I've watched guys get like the most incredible barrels, and then I've seen guys just wipe out and get murdered and like, oh, he's dead, you know. So I've gone from like, oh my God, that was sick, like I want to do it, like somebody give me a rope, like so excited, to like, oh, maybe I don't really want to do it. I'm good. I'm just gonna take 5, guys. Don't throw the rope over here, you know. But then when they actually come and throw the rope, like you have to be
game on.
Game on. Yeah. I mean, I literally watched during that Code Red swell. I watched Bruce get his wave, thought he died, blew his trunks off. No. I watched Nathan get his wave, was sure he was dead. No. You know what I mean? And so like I had to watch those waves and still find it in myself to then like take a rope after witnessing those waves. So yeah, it's hard. It's hard to psych yourself up.
So what is it that, like you said, is it that thing? 51% says this is going to be sick, and 49 says
So that 1%.
I have felt that way so many times. 51.07 says it's going to be more fun than it's going to be fucking scary.
You might die, but you know what? You might get the wave of your life.
Oh, but you might.
But you might. Like 51, that 1%.
Yeah, I totally
tip the scale.
Yeah. Been there. So how did you grow up? Oh, you said that. I'm sorry. I'm just hanging out in your this Tahiti story. There's probably a rainbow in it. In my head,
I'm sure there was a double rainbow.
Yeah, I'm sure there was too. What other magic stories do you have? Have you had any encounters with wildlife that blew your mind, or any special stories? Like Cole told me one of the most incredible stories I've ever heard. Just like liquid glass at night, anything like that the average person wouldn't like. Maybe phosphorescence or something. I don't know.
Man, I've been all over the world. I've seen some amazing, like surfing has taken me to some amazing places, and I've witnessed all kinds of wildlife. I mean, I've been, you know, in Australia and seen kangaroos and koala bears, and I've been to Africa and gotten to play with baby lions and, you know, go see the animals in their habitat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me about sponsorship. Like, how do you, as we all are hearing, so in big mountain skiing, I've got sponsors. Do you? You do have sponsors, right? Zero.
I have a whiskey sponsor. Because they sponsored the Barrel of the Year award, and they were so blown away that a chick won that they were like, "Okay, we'll sponsor you." But other than that, no sponsors. Self-sponsored. Wow. I used to have a ton of sponsors when I competed, but like I said, in women's big wave surfing, it's just not there yet. So, you know, I've just.
So do you hope this film will give it the opportunity for that to be a thing?
Yeah, I think this film, I think just the women getting more events, and that's already happening.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It just takes time for things to snowball. So
yeah.
I've been investing in myself, like buying last minute flights on my credit card and stuff like that. And
wow.
You know.
Do you have like this picture of where you want to get to, or are you just like I'm just
you know, freestyling. I don't like to like I don't know.
Project. Like, yeah, what is success to you then?
Success is just like being happy and, you know, like fulfilling your goals, like proving things to yourself, not other people.
So what's left on the old bucket list?
Man, I'd like to win the Big Wave World title now that we have one. That's exciting. We've had 2 now, and the first one I got injured, and the second one I broke my board and I got second. So I've been really close. And I'm super psyched on Paige because she's like one of my.
We've all been watching all of you guys.
Yeah, she's one of my best friends. She's such a good surfer and so deserving But yeah, I'd love to get one.
All
also,
right, good to know.
yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the injuries? We were talking downstairs about, like, we have this idea, I know I do as a skier, like, oh, surfing, like, it's just water. How bad could it be? But like, you've ripped your face apart on the reef,
Yeah,
and like you said,
the
you
big
blew
waves
your
will
knee
just tear
almost.
it. They'll tear your leg. There's just so much water.
They're so violent, huh?
It's violent. The wipeouts are violent, and
Yeah. So talk about what it is like to not make the drop in of a big wave.
Oh, you really want to make that drop. That's like the worst. Like, I think that's the hardest part of fear to overcome is the drop.
Yeah.
Once you make the drop, like, you can still get crushed, but for some reason it's just like,
well, the very first time I ever caught a real wave, I couldn't believe no one ever said it's literally like riding down a vertical mountain. No one had ever put it that way to me. I was like, I know what this is like, except at the bottom of it are these fucking sharks
and reef and all kinds of weird things.
Is what I meant. Is like, you're looking at the reef.
Yeah. You can see it underwater sometimes too. That'll trip you out.
Yeah, exactly. Or you can't tell where the water ends and where the reef starts.
Yeah, you either got murky water and you're like, okay, how shallow is it? Or Tahiti, where it's just like so clear, you're just like, oh my God, I can see it so clearly that I can like see all the little animals in the reef, and I need to stop looking at that because I'm gonna like you go where you look, and I'm gonna fall. And also when the water moves across it, it's like it looks like it's moving, so that can throw you off.
Yeah, all of it.
Yeah.
So talk about what techniques do you use when you are being held underwater for how many, like, what is that like? And how long is it really, and all the things?
It just depends. It always feels like way longer than it is because I don't even know how long I can hold my breath, but I can definitely hold my breath in like a pool with not any moving water, probably for over a minute, But like put yourself in a violent wipeout situation where it feels like a bunch of people are just like
trying to rip you apart.
And try and hold your breath.
Yeah.
At the same time.
And know what way is up and
Yeah. I've had some scary ones. I had one in Tahiti. Tahiti's just like Tahiti's been the best and the worst.
Exactly. It sounds like that would make perfect sense.
Yeah, it's like the
best are also the most dangerous often.
The most amazing, like glorifying moments, and also the most terrifying, feel like I'm gonna die moments. Yeah.
Hey, if you have any questions I should ask so that she tells some rad stories, please. Please. Like, this is the best. Like
the first time I went to Tahiti, I went for a contest. This is like 1998, and the swell got really. This is before forecasting. Before we had like Surfline online, and you could like really track a forecast and know what was going. See the buoys and all that stuff. So like, I had no idea how big it was. So I went out to like practice, for the contest, and Tahiti from the beach, it's really hard to gauge how big it is because it could be 2 feet or 20 feet. You're so far away, it pretty much looks the same. So when I got out there, and I don't make this mistake anymore, I was so excited that I didn't just sit and wait to see what the sets were, like, what was going on, how long in between sets, how big is it? I saw one 6-foot perfect wave peel down the reef, and I just grabbed my board and like jumped out there. Well, that little 6-foot wave wasn't even a wave. That was like something that was breaking in between when the actual waves broke.
Whoa.
And so I got out there and I paddled right next to, I think Shane Dorian was in the water, and I got out there and Shane's like, "Oh, KK, charging, yeah?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, whatever, it's 6 foot. Yeah, stoked." And then next thing I like turn around and paddle for a wave that wasn't a wave.
Oh shit.
That didn't break. And when I turned around,
oh no,
I saw what the real waves were that day, and like the entire ocean looked like it was standing up and about to like crush me. Yeah. And I paddled. I was terrified, and I paddled out towards it and just barely got under as a lip came down on top of me, and was able to just like throw my board and just barely get under the lip. But I got sucked up over the falls,
oh my God.
And this is before like vest. This is before any kind of flotation, anything. I had board shorts and like a rash guard on, and I got pinned down on the reef and held down for 2-wave hold down. Everybody thought I was dead. Board broken in 3 pieces. Didn't know which way was up.
You're
at that point
I was to your board.
At that point, I'm
waves,
like
right?
life flashing before our eyes. Like saw family, friends, dogs. Like really thought I was gonna die. And then at that point, like there was a break in the force of the water push holding me. And so right then I just kicked with all my might, like kicked the reef and got up and got a breath, and then another wave. Boom. And that one spun me around for a bit, but then I was able to get back up and get a breath, and then I grabbed my leash and like shaking.
Just
and was
losing it.
Just so rattled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you come back from that?
Took me a year.
Yeah, what did you do? What strategies do you have?
Yeah.
Time?
It was just time, and then, there was another contest going to be happening, and I knew that I'd liked that wave because I'd gotten to ride it like once before that big day. I got to ride it on like a smaller day, so I knew it was killer, and I'd seen photos of it, and I was just like, no, like, I'm gonna love this wave. I just need to like get over this fear.
Desire.
Yeah, it was just desire. Yeah, desire got me over it.
So what's the ultimate desire? Is there like besides, you've got that contest to win, is there anything else besides?
Yeah, there's certain things I would like to do. Like, I want to get a big barrel at Puerto Escondido. Like, I would love to get a big barrel at Jaws. I've gotten one barrel at Jaws, but it was like kind of a funky one where it like clamshell. I want to get a big, like, open, gaping one. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I have like these little goals, these little visions in my head. That just take time and being in the right place at the right time, and
Totally.
just getting lucky, really.
Yeah. So, what advice would you give to a younger version of yourself at a time when she really needed it?
I guess I would say, just don't give up. It'll get better. Like, things come and go. In the low times, you think you're never gonna win a contest again, or you're never gonna like be on top again, and it's just never true. You just have to work hard, and you'll get back there.
Do you see some of the girls that you were in contest with before, like kind of looking at what you guys are doing and creating and considering coming that way?
Yeah, I've actually seen it a lot. There's some girls that do the tour or used to do the CT tour, like Fidelity Palmatier. I mean, but there's been some girls there's been some women that have been competitive surfers going for the CT that are now kind of like have that passion and desire maybe to do the bigger wave thing and see what we're doing, and are coming over and doing some of our events and stuff. Yeah.
How important is it for you for girls on this side? Like, so I just had a mom, it might have been a dad. They got me on Instagram, and they're like, there's no posters of women doing rad stuff. And do you have any suggestions where I could find that for my daughter's wall?
Here's the thing, it's like, it's funny because it's like, in life and everything, it's just ebbs and flows, right? So back in like the Blue Crush era.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Good point.
There was like all women surf magazines. Yeah, right. I was on the cover. I used to be a cover girl on surf magazines doing cool surfing stuff. And now, and it's like once the economy collapsed, it's like all these companies reverted back to, let's just go with what worked before, which is sex sells, and let's like just show chicks in bikinis. And we can show dudes doing the cool surfy stuff, but girls definitely just show their butts.
And also fighting when the economy goes down, budgets are the first thing to go. And that shows you the patriarchy there, where it's like, okay, if your budget's getting cut, well, let's just cut the girls' stuff. That's kind of what that looks
real
like.
Quick. This is awesome.
Oh, my name's Mariah.
And
what?
Well, you're producing,
No, I'm just a friend, but yes.
Just a friend.
Well, I'm a girlfriend. I'm her girlfriend. But yeah, that's
I get it. Let's talk about that.
But she used to be the rep for Volcom, so she has experience in that surf industry.
But besides that, just as a woman in general, doesn't matter what industry you're in, there's always a bit of a bias. So I've worked in multiple different careers, and that just makes sense. It's something that looks blatant to me because in, let's say, liquor. So I have a background in liquor and marketing. I worked for Grand Marnier, and when September 11th happened, the first thing that happened was marketing budgets get cut. Now, it's not as bad now because social media, which is a whole like new, since the 90s and that up and coming in 2000s, new media, right? So people do keep more money in it now. But the old premise is economy goes down, marketing gets cut, right? So you look at whatever industry you're in, but for her particular industry, which would be surfing, you see the economy went down and what got cut? A lot of the women's stuff. So they don't have extraneous. And what do they know that sells most is probably a little bit of booty and the cute girls. So let's get rid of the more extreme womenness because they're going to focus their dollars on men. And even if you look at sponsorship, I'm pretty sure relatively across the board, go look at their budgets, ask to see any surf company's budget, how much is dedicated for the men's, how much is dedicated for women's.
Can I also ask you, as a marketing person, I once jumped off a 70-foot cliff, and I was really proud of that. It was really pushing the sport for women. And then I did a powder turn afterwards, and my sponsors used the powder turn in their media, in their advertising and all of it. Instead of something that actually was like noteworthy and history making. And I'm just wondering, as a marketing person, like they kept saying, oh, well, women don't, no one can relate to that. It doesn't show the product. That was the reason they didn't choose that stuff. And I'm just curious, from your knowledge, is that true?
Okay.
Or do we actually sell things from rad imagery?
I can give you both on that one. I can see two different things happening there. If the powder turn at the bottom, there was a logo showing and things shot better, I could see them making that decision based solely on that. So I don't want to say it is a completely skewed misogyny or anything there. No, but then again, but then again, on the opposite side, I could definitely see them not wanting to give you that depending on who runs whatever company. I think there's definitely a threat. I mean, there's an obvious threat that men feel from women because you see it in what they call trolling online and all these angry, weird ways, or even with Me Too movement, I've listened or seen people complain like, oh, women are blaming men, and men being then angry and lashing out about that, which you'd think a real evolved man would be like, wow, other men are doing that. That's horrifying. I'm so sad that any woman had to deal with that. I'll be more. It's not to take a bunch of men to task. The whole thing for that to come out is it's a call to arms. It's to say, we need you. And I think that there's
and this has been happening and you might not know about it.
Yeah, and I think that just innately men feel threatened sometimes by women when they either become successful or, so I could see, maybe, I don't know who was in that room that did marketing, but they may have their own biases against women and they feel like, hey, she's cute, she's just as that, her butt might be facing the picture a little bit more and look roundy, and let's use this one, even though that was a
smiley face. Right?
Also, they might ski themselves and might be super threatened that here's a chick taking a 70-foot jump and I can't do that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll never know. And that's why I'm always been wondering. I don't want to take you guys too much away from the party.
No, it's okay.
What is your vision, you guys? Like, if in your ideal perfect world, what would it look like as an athlete?
My ideal perfect world as an athlete is you get paid for performance. Like, performance is rewarded.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
I feel like so many of the brands and the marketing is okay, cool. So many of the brands and the marketing is geared towards, like I said, like sex sells, and I think that female empowerment is such a better marketing strategy, and I feel like,
how can we start to change it then? What do you think is the best way that we could?
I personally kind of have a different weird view on that. I don't think there's anything so much wrong with sex at a certain point. Like, women's bodies are beautiful, women are beautiful, but that's not solely what we are. So it should be everything. If a woman's comfortable being in a bikini or an ad or whatever, great, but then don't
leave it at that.
Don't minimalize it. Don't be like I work in marketing and I hire 20-year-old girls and mentor them. I've been a restaurant manager, and that's one of the things I try to tell women. Yeah, I'm working when you're a promotional spokesmodel. Some people are just like, oh, TNA, but my teams didn't sell solely off of TNA. My girls sold because they're brilliant, they're smart, they're beautiful in spirit, inside, and they actually knew their brands. Were they attractive too?
Package, yeah.
But that's the other thing, is you get this fight, you even have women that are putting down other women because, well, look, she's dressed sexy or this or that. Why can't we be all? Why can't we be both? We are.
Okay,
we're
so what advice would you have?
Business people.
Last question, so you can go to the party and I don't get in trouble. What advice do you give to up and coming athletes, or that people who want to show what they've got?
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if it's great advice because I know there's a lot of people that have probably made a lot more money than me. But my advice to anybody is just be yourself and stay true to who you are. And, the money will come. Maybe it won't be like as much as other people. But if you're true to yourself, you're going to be happy.
Because you're doing what you love.
Because you're doing what you love. And yeah, you're being genuine. So.
Cool. Well, let's go raise some money for your movie.
Yeah.
What's it called? Where can people find it?
She Change. She Change.
Thanks so much for listening, friends. If you enjoyed this conversation, give us a review on iTunes. Help spread the word, and make sure to subscribe. On the next episode, I'll share my sit-down with Sachi Cunningham, the director of the up-and-coming, all-female, big wave surf film, She Change. Until then, see you in the mountains, unicorns.